Yes, hello. My name is Dan Betzel, and I want to welcome you to our workshop, Social Security Income. How do you maximize it? I hope that the time we spend together is going to be useful for you and your family in making very good decisions, not only about Social Security, but about your retirement and retirement income um, in general. First, I want to make it very clear that I am not a representative of the Social Security Administration. I don't speak on their behalf. By training, I'm an estate and tax lawyer, and I currently work as a financial planner. And so I'm going to be sharing with you my experiences coming from those various perspectives. And I hope that my experiences and what I've learned both in law school and working as a financial planner, that you'll find them useful and helpful. So there's a picture of me, so you can see what I look like, as well as an email address and a phone number if you'd like to contact me with any additional questions or concerns that you may have about the presentation and about some of the things we talk about. So, what's our main goal today? Our main goal today is to assist you in having a better understanding of how Social Security works and the choices that you can make to improve your retirement income for yourself and your spouse. And we're the ultimate goal, of course, is to help you maintain and achieve financial security, peace of mind, and ultimately fulfillment as you move from your working years into your retirement years. Because fulfillment really is the result of a merging of both money and your life purpose together. Money in and of itself is not an end goal. However, it is a necessary fuel in our economy and our culture to reach your true life goals. Let's first of all by begin by looking at some interesting facts about Social Security. Now, there are 75 million baby boomers in the United States who are on the verge of retirement. That means that for the next 20 years, there are 10,000 baby boomers that will reach the age of 65 every day. Now, these baby boomers are in addition to all the folks who are currently retired and that are currently receiving Social Security throughout their lives. What do you think one of the main questions that I'm asked when I talk to people about Social Security? One of the main questions I'm asked is, do you think there'll be sufficient funds to support all the payments that have to be made out of the Social Security Trust Fund? We're going to address that issue, and I hope by the time we're done, you'll have a better understanding of the various ways that Congress may address this problem. Hopefully, it will alleviate some of the stress that you have concerning the future of Social Security. Now, this is very interesting. So, what are the sources of retirement income for those who are 65 years and older? Well, you can see that Social Security represents 86% of the income. Asset income, in other words, pulling money off of assets that you've accumulated, whether they be stock portfolios or real estate portfolios, 49%. Only 27% of retired people are receiving pensions, and that amount is actually we anticipate and expect and see that that percentage is actually decreasing every year. And 26 of the people percent of the people that are retired are still working. Now, I find that a little bit of a funny number, because if you're still working, I have to ask, are you actually retired? So let's begin with a little bit of history. The Social Security Act was signed by FDR in 1935, and taxes were collected for the first time in January 1937. Interesting a bit of history of trivia is the first payment was made in January 1937, and here's the recipient of the first payment, and his name is Ernest Ackerman, and as you can read, he only received a total benefit of 17 cents. That was a one-time lump sum payment. That was the only type of payment that was available at the time. And I'm not sure how far the 17 cents went in 1937, certainly farther than it can go today, but that certainly was not enough to fund an entire retirement. So, some interesting facts. Let's look at how Social Security is set up and how the how how the Social Security Administration gets its funds and how it administers its funds. So the Social Security Administration makes payments by drawing funds from the Social Security and Disability Trust Funds. The OASI is the Old Age and Survivors Insurance, and DI is the Disability Insurance. And together, they're called the OASDI. So Social Security taxes and other income are deposited into these accounts, and Social Security benefits are paid from them. Now, the only purpose for which these trust funds can be used are to pay benefits and program administrative costs. So the Social Security Trust Funds, it actually holds money not needed in the current year to pay benefits and administrative costs, and by law, they must be invested in special treasury bonds that are guaranteed by the U.S. government. A market rate of interest is paid on these trust funds on the bonds that are held, and when those bonds reach maturity or are needed to pay benefits, the Treasury redeems them. So this chart here, it's a little hard to read, but I'll give you a synopsis of it. So the current tax rate, Social Security rate, is 6.2% for both employers and employees. That means that if you're self-employed, you're paying both the employer 6.2 plus the employee 6.2. You're paying actual 12.4% Social Security tax. Now, in addition, you're paying an additional 1.45 for Medicare, for hospitalization insurance. Now, what's interesting is that taxes are not paid on earnings currently above $117,000 for Social Security. So what that means is the 6.2% that you're paying, or the 12.4% you're paying if you're self-employed, that any amounts you earn over $117,000 are not taxed. Now, the Medicare rate of 1.45, you're taxed on the full amount of the income that you earn in a given year. So this next slide shows us the likely event of the timing that the trust funds, the Social Security trust funds, will no longer be solvent. So as a result of changes to Social Security that were enacted in 1983, benefits are now expected to be payable in full on a timely basis until 2037, when the trust fund reserves are projected to become exhausted, and you can see that on the chart. So a lot of people, and understandably so, are very concerned, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned, but sometimes I'll hear that, well, the trust funds are basically invested in worthless IOUs. That's not necessarily true. I would disagree with that, because the investments held by the trust funds are backed by the full faith and credit clause of the United States government. Now, there are many options that are being considered to restore long-range trust fund solvency. And these options are being considered now, well in advance of the year of the funds that they're likely to be exhausted. And I think it's highly unlikely that we'll see any legislation to address these issues until we get closer to the actual point of trust fund exhaustion. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the potential budget solutions that are currently being investigated and talked about on Capitol Hill. So as I said, currently the workers are paying 6.2% of their earnings into the Social Security system, up to the $113,700. Now, if this tax rate were gradually increased to 7.2% by 2036, it would eliminate just over half, or 53%, of the Social Security deficit. And if workers and employers each paid 7.6%, so in other words, we increased the employer portion from 6.2 to 7.6, increased it by 1.4, and also the employee portion by the exact same amount, it would totally eliminate the financing gap. A recent survey shows us that almost 70%, 69.5% of Americans support this particular solution to the current potential budget problems we're having. Secondly, there's talk about lifting the payroll tax cap. In other words, if you recall, I said that you only paid Social Security taxes up to $113,700, and that was actually in tax year 2013. And if we gradually increase the threshold and and taxed on people that were making above this amount of 113,700, we would be able to reduce the budget by almost 90, the budget shortfall by almost 90%. And this is also a popular idea as a possible solution. So the third is raise the retirement age. So currently, the full retirement age for those people that were born in 1960 or later is 67 years old. Now, if we decided as a country to raise that retirement age gradually to 70 by 2050, it would reduce the budget deficit that we're looking at right here. Now, this is not a very popular solution, but nevertheless, it is a solution that is being talked about. A fourth possible solution is a means test. In other words, those high wage earners who are making significant income in retirement and had significant assets, their Social Security payments would be phased out. And throwing numbers around, for example, if you have non-Social Security income in excess of $110,000, then you would begin to experience a phase out of Social Security benefits. This isn't a very popular way to address the Social Security problem, but nevertheless, it is one that's being talked about. The fifth potential budget solution is actually changing the way that we do the cost of living adjustment. And if we were to change the way that the cost of living adjustment is calculated, the budget office suggests that we would be able to reduce the budget deficit by some 25% just by doing that one particular change. But once again, this is not a very popular way to approach the problem. So I just hope that this is going to give you an idea of some of the potential ways that Congress could choose to address the potential budget crisis that is looming in the future, in the not too distant future, but nevertheless is still a little bit out for us. So just how important is Social Security? I mean, is it really being used significantly by a lot of the retired folks, a lot of the seniors in the United States? So here are some factors to consider. What's gone on in the last 25, 30 years is we've seen the demise of the defined pension plans and increased reliance on Social Security. And what we mean by that is many of our parents and many, perhaps of those of you who are listening, actually have a defined pension plan. In other words, you've worked for a company or you've worked for a government entity for 20, 25, 30 years, and you have a vested pension. And the company or the government entity or the school district or the police department, the fire department, the state of Ohio, whatever, is guaranteeing to make your monthly benefit checks and all of the risk, all of the investment choices in order to make that occur are they're resting securely on the company or on the government entity, not on the individual employee who's receiving the benefits. So what's happened is we've seen this gradual shift from defined benefit or defined pension plans to defined contribution plans. So what that means is that over the years, more and more companies are no longer offering pensions. They're now offering 401ks, 403bs if you work for a not-for-profit, and all of the risk of meeting your retirement goals is no longer on the company. They're now on the employee to save enough and to make good choices. We also have this issue about longevity. What are we going to do that it's very, very common that a person can retire and actually have 20, 25, even 30 years of retirement? How do we make sure the money is going to last? So a vast majority of Americans are receiving Social Security. You can see that in December 2012, about 61.9 million people received a payment from Social Security. In 2011, 87% of married couples and 85% of non-married persons age 65 or older received Social Security benefits. So you can see it's an extremely important aspect of very many Americans' retirement income. As I said earlier, what's been happening is there's been this transfer of risk. In a defined benefit plan, we have very predictable benefits. We know that the steel company, the car company, the state that you live in, and that you're entitled to a pension, whatever, that they are taking full responsibility for your pension payments. Now, a defined contribution plan, 401k, all of the risk is on the investor, on the employee to invest wisely, to invest sufficient funds, and hopefully not to have any serious stock market issues that would adversely impact the amount of money that is available in the 401k when the employee retires. You can see here a chart showing what's happened over the years. Full-time workers of large establishments, all workers, all establishments. You can see that every year the amount of defined benefit plans continues to decrease, and all experts believe that this is just going to continue to accelerate. And in the not too distant future, very, very few people will have the privilege of having a defined benefit plan. Almost everyone will be participating in a defined contribution plan. So this is interesting that the 401k assets, the most popular form of defined contribution plan, increased by 600 billion from 2007 to 3.6 trillion in 2012. That's just astronomical amount of money being funded into 401k plans, 403b plans, and no longer into pension plans. So what's really going on here, as I've said, is a transfer of risk. That the risk is no longer on the company, it's now on the employee. So that's something we have to really think about when we're putting together a retirement plan for someone, is how much risk can that person take, how much of their income is going to be variable and fluctuating, and we have to make sure that we do everything we can to mitigate the amount of risk that the retiree is taking. Another issue that we have is, one of the most critical aspects of creating sound income strategies for the future is understanding how long a person can potentially live. While your specific longevity is a personal matter, the average that's on this chart gives you an idea, just an idea of how long you may live. Now we know that averages are just that, they're averages. Some people live longer, some people live shorter. And people cannot predict longevity. That's another concern that we have. We're not able to accurately predict how long a person is going to live. So if you live 30 to 40 years after retirement, this puts stress on assets to support your lifestyle for that period of time. You could see a married couple, 85% chance that one person lives beyond their 90th birthday. And most of us are actually clueless about the impact that this longevity can have on our retirement planning. And it's just very, very crucial that we plan for this contingency of a very long and hopefully fruitful and abundant retirement. So what are the basic Social Security facts of claiming Social Security? What are the basic strategies? Let's look at this now. So the Government Accounting Office, they provide some guidelines for creating retirement income. I think they're a little funny. They're not that helpful, but anyway, we'll go over them. So in 2011, the Government Accounting Office said that retirees should systematically draw down their savings, use an income annuity if that's available to them, take the pension offered by your company if available rather than a lump sum and invest it yourself, because if you invest it yourself, you're taking the full risk on yourself. Make sure that you're taking Social Security at a time that will maximize its payout to you. And we're going to actually focus on that particular aspect for the rest of this workshop. Of course, you can also continue to work and save. Again, if you're continuing to work and save, it's not really a retirement as I would see it. Now, of course, if you enjoy, if you retire and then you find a position or a job that you just really love and enjoy, that's a different. To me, that's a totally different issue. You're working because you want to, not necessarily because you have to. So Social Security, we have to figure out, the first step is, what is your FRA? FRA. What is your full retirement age? Sometimes people call it the FBA, your full benefit age. And if you were born in 1960 or later, it's 67. If you were born in a different year prior to 1960, then this chart will show you your full retirement age, your FRA. Born in 1937 and prior at 65, and then it gradually goes up to 67 for those that were born in 1960 and later. So just take a second and find your full retirement age on this chart. Might want to jot it down. It might be useful as you begin to explore various options that are available to you for Social Security. You have to know your full retirement age. So, PIA is your primary insurance amount. In other words, if the benefit that you would receive if you begin receiving benefits not early but at your full retirement age, your FRA. Now, the Social Security website is actually very, very useful, and I would encourage you to take a few minutes and jot down the link, the HTTPS colon secure.ssa.gov/RIL/SIView .do and create your own Social Security account, because if you do, you will be able to automatically, immediately print your Social Security statement. My understanding is that the Social Security Administration is if they haven't totally yet, they are actually phasing out mailing paper statements. However, if you're 65 or older, they will continue to mail you copies of your statements in the mail. But you are always free to get online and to download your Social Security statement and to make sure that it's accurate. So how does Social Security determine your benefit? Well, your benefit is based on basically two things: the age that you begin to collect, so your full retirement age, or if you collect early, then that's going to negatively penalize you. Or if you wait past your full retirement age, there'll be some monetary benefits for waiting. And also the average of the highest 35 years of earnings on which you paid Social Security payroll tax. So for every year that your post 60 earnings exceed the lowest of the previous 35 years, wow, you're going to get a raise in your Social Security check. So if you again continue to work, you can see that it's possible to have a lifetime benefit increase 21.7 from age 66. Although that's true and interesting, my experience has been that most people don't want to continue working those additional years. So you can start collecting Social Security at any age between 62 and 70. So the chart in front of you is actually using a full retirement age of age 66 for any of those born 1960 and later. Now, every year that you delay taking Social Security from your full retirement age, assuming it's 66 in this example, you get an additional 8%. So if you wait till you're 67, you get 8%, 68, 16%, 69, 24%, obviously, and 70, 32%. There's no additional premium, no additional payment for waiting past your 70th year. Now, for every year that you take it early before your full retirement age, you can see that you're going to receive less. And if you take it at 62, as a general rule, you're going to receive 25% less than you would have received if you had waited until your full retirement age. So what's the break-even point? In other words, if you decide to wait till 70, how long is it going to take you to break even and to actually be ahead because of the extra payments you're going to be making? The general rule of thumb, it takes about 12 and a half years for the 32% difference to equal the 4 years of benefits that you would have collected starting at age 66. Because if you do wait, you're not going to be receiving 4 years of payments. You will be receiving additional higher payments from age 70, but you have to wait the entire 12 and a half years in order to make up those 4 years that you did not receive any payments at all if you choose to wait. So the way I look at it is, if you need the money in order to live comfortably and to do the things that you want to do, then of course you should take the funds when you need them. If it's possible though for you to wait, every year you wait, you're going to receive additional benefits. And we'll look at some examples here shortly. Now, this is just a concept I'm just going to mention briefly, that if you do decide to wait um, after age 62, it's not a linear progression for how your Social Security benefits are calculated. There are these things called gaps or rat holes, and so just make sure that if you are going to claim your Social Security um, at at a certain time before your full retirement age, that you look and make sure that you're doing it at the proper time. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's kind of complicated, but yet very interesting. So if you do decide to take it early, just be sure you're not going to take it in one of these gaps or rat holes. Now, if you're married, there's special rules that can actually raise the benefits of the lower earning spouse. Now, traditionally, certainly not always, but traditionally, the um, the wife's earning capacity, or the wife's earning history, is not as large as the husband's. So it allows some very interesting planning in order to assist those couples. And the basic idea is something called the spousal benefit. So if both husband and wife have claimed benefits, each is guaranteed half of what the other would get at full retirement age. So we'll look at some examples and this will become clearer. So if you look here on this particular chart that's in front of you, this is an example of primary and spousal benefits at age 62, benefits based on a $1,000 primary insurance amount. So what that means is the full retirement age for this particular person, he was born in 1960 or later, is 67. Now, that this particular person is going to take early retirement. In other words, they're going to begin to claim Social Security not at 67 but at 62. Since they're taking it early, there's going to be a reduction. And that reduction, as you can see in the chart, is he will not receive $1,000, he'll actually receive $700. So there's been a 30% reduction from the 1,000. Now the spouse is entitled to one half of the higher higher spouse's Social Security. Now, the husband in this example, if he had waited for full retirement, would have received a $1,000 monthly benefit, but he retired early, so he received only $700. It's been reduced by 30%. Now, so rather than receiving $500, her particular share is going to be reduced by a further 35%, meaning that she will only receive $325, not the $500. So spousal benefits are reduced up to 35% if claimed before the recipient's full benefit age. So it can be quite dramatic, and before you make a decision, you need to know exactly what the benefit will be reduced by so that you can make a very good decision. So husbands can get more for their wives. The survivor benefit, so a widow or widower can keep their own benefit or claim a survivor benefit equal to the spouse's monthly benefit. Now, most wives, not always of course, are going to live about 7 years on average longer than their husbands. So survivor benefits are available as early as 60, but are reduced as I showed you on the last slide, up to 28.5% if claimed before the recipient's full retirement age. And a husband can increase the monthly benefit his wife gets as a survivor more than 60% if he actually waits and claims at 70. So in other words, he waits 4 years past his full retirement age and doesn't claim 4 years early at age 62. Now, this is interesting. Just want to point this out because I've actually had a couple cases where I've been able to mention this to somebody and it was really powerful and really helped them. But it seems somewhat counterintuitive, but you're actually eligible to receive benefits from a deceased ex-spouse's record. If you're at least 60 years old, you were married for at least 10 years, and you're not entitled to a higher benefit because of your own record, and you're unmarried unless you're remarried after the age 60, you would be able to claim Social Security benefits from an ex-spouse who's deceased. And interestingly, The benefits paid to a surviving divorced spouse will not affect the benefit amount paid to other family members who receive benefits on the same record. So, if your deceased ex spouse had been remarried before he or she had died, that particular spouse would receive their benefits and you would also be eligible for them if you meet those requirements. It's just something really useful to know if you ever hear about this or someone you know is going through this situation. You might want to be able to mention this to them and have them call Social Security office and they'll walk you through it. We don't have time to today, it's not the focus, but this is just something that I'd like you to be aware of. It's actually quite interesting. So there's also special rules for some government workers. We're not going to have time to go through that either today, but I do want to point out to you that if you are receiving a government pension, it could be from the state, it could be from the city you're working for. Teachers, for example, are often eligible for a state teachers retirement pension. If that's the case, then you need to be sure that how that impacts your Social Security payment. There's some specific rules you're going to want to look at. Actually, it's called the windfall elimination provision, and calculation of benefits for workers with a pension from a job where they did not pay Social Security payroll tax are calculated very differently. Also impacts your ability to claim a portion of the spousal benefit from your spouse who wasn't working or receiving a government pension. So be sure that you check into that. So, what if you continue to work when taking early Social Security? What's the impact? So, from age 62 until you reach your full retirement age, which we're using as an example, age 66. Um, so, from age 62 until your full retirement age, it's your Social Security payment is reduced $1 for every $2 you earn above 15,480. Then when you reach your full retirement age, from January of that year until your birthday month, it's reduced $1 for every $3 you earn above 41,000. And the nice thing is, once you reach your full retirement age and the month of your birthday and that full retirement age, there's no reduction in your Social Security benefits. Now, this is interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but if your Social Security is actually reduced because you are working and you're making above those threshold limits we talked, any reduction in Social Security income in early retirement due to working will result in positive adjustment to your monthly benefit when you reach your full retirement age. You will not receive it as a lump sum, but you will receive it back in additional payments spread out over the next considerable time. And that's often a shock to people when they realize that. Now, what about taxes? I often get asked, are Social Security benefits taxed? Well, maybe, and this will help you. If you're married filing jointly and you have a combined income of less than $32,000, then 0% of your Social Security benefits are taxed. As you can see, if you have a combined income of 32,000 to 44,000, 50% of your benefit will be taxable. And if you have a income of over 44,000, then 85% of your income will be taxable. Now, income is defined a little differently when we're considering the taxation of Social Security benefits. So combined income is your adjusted gross income plus non-taxable interest. And here's what often a lot of people don't understand, the next part. And 1/2 of your annual Social Security benefit. So if you're receiving $12,000 of annual Social Security benefits, 1/2 of it, or $6,000, is used into determining your combined income and whether or not any portion of it's taxable. So do you get a cost of living adjustment? Absolutely. Every year you get a cost of living adjustment. The historical average for your cost of living adjustment is 2.5. Now, as if you recall earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that there's some talk about actually changing the way we adjust for the cost of living, and if that does take place as they're discussing, there will be a cost of living adjustment. It'll just be less than the 2.5 that we've averaged in the past. So those are the basics of claiming Social Security. Let's look at some advanced claiming strategies at this point. So when you retire, there are and you're claiming. So retiring and claiming are two different things. Option one is to file and start collection right away. Option two would be to delay and use an advanced claiming strategy. So, what are advanced claiming strategies? They're timing strategies that have to take into account a lot of different factors. For example, what's your life expectancy? Of course, we don't know that for sure. It's uncertain. Your age, your marital status, your full retirement age, your retirement budget, and your investable assets that you have outside that we can use to meet living expenses if we choose to delay the turning on the and claiming Social Security. So the correct strategy for every individual is a result of considering all of these factors together. So let's look at some advanced claiming strategies and options, and I'm going to give you some examples. And there's basically five that I'm going to discuss. The first one is complicated, and I think the best way to understand the first one is to allow me to actually give you an example. So John and Mary, they're a married couple. They're both 66, which is their full retirement age. And Mary is retired, and John plans to keep on working until he's 70. At 66, which is John's full retirement age, and he's had a larger income than Mary over the course of his career, he files for his full retirement benefit of $2,000 a month. But he immediately suspends payment. By doing that, by suspending payment, he will begin to accrue the delayed retirement credits. And you may recall that each year that he delays, he's going to receive 8% higher than if he had started taking the Social Security payments at 66. So the credits top out at age 70. So since John's basic retirement benefit at age 66 was 2000, his new payment if he waits until 70 to collect will be 2640 plus any cost of living adjustments that occurred during that time. Now, when John filed for his benefits, he automatically activated Mary's ability to apply for a spousal benefit. Now, you may recall that Mary is entitled to how much of his full retirement? That's right, 50%. So, she's entitled to one half of her spouse's retirement benefit. Therefore, Mary will be able to collect $1,000 a month. But something else will be happening because Mary has reached her own full retirement age, but's not taking her own retirement benefit. She will also accrue delayed retirement credits that will boost her own retirement benefit when she applies for it in the future. In other words, her retirement benefit will also continue to grow at 8% for each year that she waits until the year 70. So as Mary and John await the day when they'll activate their higher retirement income, they have a $12,000 a year cushion in the form of Mary's spousal payments. So it's very, very useful. So file and suspend can have long-lasting positive effects. For instance, if John were to die at 72, his decision to delay taking his Social Security until 70 would have had a very favorable impact on Mary's survivor benefit. She will receive John's full monthly payment, including the delayed retirement benefits. That's a really good example of file and suspend. Now, a restricted application is not as complicated, but it's similar. So I'll give you an example again. So a wife age 62 and her husband age 66 want to retire at the same time. Each is eligible for a $2,000 per month retirement benefit, at their full retirement age of 66. However, because the wife has not reached her full retirement age, her monthly benefit will be reduced as she retires now and begins to receive benefits. So how might they retire together and maximize their Social Security income? Well, the husband claims his retirement benefit, $2,000 a month at age 62. Wife claims her retirement benefit, $1,500 early at age 62.1. Husband applies for a restricted application and chooses his spousal benefit, $1,000, until switching to his retirement benefit at age 70. Husband's benefit grows at 8%, and then he switches to his benefit at age 70. Really interesting how you can use the rules to maximize and strategize your own retirement Social Security income. Delayed retirement credits, we've talked about that. This allows the Social Security benefits to grow. So, by delaying between your full retirement age of 66 and 70, each year that you delay it, you'll receive an additional 8%. Switch is a fairly straightforward strategy whereby one spouse switched from their own benefit to the benefit of their spouse. And the last would be the survivor benefit, that benefits paid to the surviving spouse of a deceased eligible worker, and the survivor is eligible for the highest check if they're both receiving Social Security benefits. Well, let's look at an example of this. So, this is Karen and Sarah. They're both 62. So, I'm sorry, Ken and Sarah. They're both 62. And if Ken were to retire at 62, he would receive monthly benefits of 1,500. If he waits until his full retirement age, 66, 2,000, and if he waits till 70, each year he waits, he'll receive 8% additional income. That's going to give him 2,640. Now, Sarah, if she begins her benefits at 62, she'll receive 750. Monthly benefits begin at full retirement age of 66, which of course is going to be 1,000, and her monthly benefits, if she waits until 70, be 1,320. So, what's an advanced claiming strategy that Ken and Sarah could use? So, Ken files and suspends benefits based on his earnings record in June 2018 at age 66 and 1 month, which makes Sarah eligible for spousal benefits at age 66. Sarah files a restricted application for spousal benefits only in the estimated amount of $1,000 in June 2018 at age 66. Ken begins benefits based on his earning record in the estimated amount of $2,640 in May 2022 at age 70. Sarah switches to benefits based on her earnings record in the estimated amount of $1,320 in June 2022 at age 70. And then finally, in June 2037, Sarah switches to the survivor benefits in the estimated amount of $2,640. So you can see how these various advanced claiming strategies can be used to maximize Social Security benefits paid to a couple. So the result of this new strategy, using the long lifespan, there's a total additional income of $143,860, or $5,138 a year, or $428 a month. So it can be quite dramatic. So now we're talking about income planning, and what about Ken and Sarah's other assets? So if we can maximize the Social Security payments, the income payments that are coming in, that's going to allow us various strategic strategy planning with their other investable assets they have. There's something called the claiming report, and it gives clients an illustration of how much of their assets will or won't be preserved based on the Social Security and pension and other guaranteed income that a family may have coming into them in retirement. So Social Security is just, one piece of the puzzle, and you have to ask yourself, well, how does Social Security fit into my overall retirement income? And there's two types of retirement income. There's general income, which is Social Security, pensions, annuities, and treasuries, and this income is guaranteed. Now, by guaranteed, I mean it's backed either by the full faith and credit clause of the United States, Social Security or pension, the company you may have worked for, or annuities, the company that issues the annuity, but it's predictable and you're able to plan. Then there's variable income, dividends, bond interest, withdrawals from your brokerage accounts, REIT distributions if you own real property, those kind of things, and that income is going to be variable. So often we have to be very careful, and a concern that people have is, what if we have an income shortfall? This is called dissaving, and dissaving is when income is insufficient to meet expenses. Sometimes it's called income gap, income deficit, income shortfall. And inflation compounds the income shortfall problem. Now, if $100,000, for example, is all that's needed today, How much is going to be needed in 10 years if we take a really conservative 3% inflation rate? Well, $100,000 in 10 years, you're going to need $134,000 to actually have the same purchasing power as the $100,000 does today. If you wait 15 years, you need $155,000. If you wait 20 years, you're going to need $180,000. That's quite a lot of money, quite a lot of additional money just to maintain the same purchasing power. And we have to make sure that we set up a plan that's going to address this concern. So there's typical ways that you can make up for an income shortfall. When Social Security and pensions are not enough, you can systematically draw down your savings. You can take 4% withdrawals from invested assets. Most financial people feel that 4% is the amount you can withdraw from your investable assets and without fear of running out of money. Some say it should be closer to 3 or 3.5. You can buy an annuity from an insurance company. You can take interest off of bonds and dividends, or you can use a reverse mortgage. I like to use income buckets to help clarify the income needs, and I'm going to give you an example. So using Ken and Sarah again, they have about $800,000 of investable assets. Now we begin with like what's their desired income, or what are they hoping to be able to have as income coming into them every year for retirement? Well, their desired income is $50,000. Now, what portion of that $50,000 is guaranteed with Social Security, pensions, structured settlements, or annuities? They actually have 40,000 coming in guaranteed, so that's very, very nice. That means there's an income deficit or surplus of $10,000. So the question would be, if your desired income that you need to meet your basic living expenses is $50,000 and you have a $10,000 deficit, how do you want to address that? Would you like to also find a way to address that so that additional $10,000 would be coming in the form of some sort of guaranteed payment? Most people say yes. If that's the case, we can put approximately 250 of the $800,000 investable assets into a bucket that's guaranteed to create the $10,000 of additional income, and we can then place another $400,000 into the variable income. Now, you may recall that I said that most financial advisors agree that you can take somewhere between 3 and 4% of a portfolio and still have the portfolio remain healthy and grow. So if we were to take 4% just to make the math easier, that gives us an additional $16,000 of variable income. It doesn't mean that Ken and Sarah have to spend that. It just means that that money is available if they do need to spend it for maybe a large unexpected purchase that they don't have sufficient funds to pay for, or to keep up with inflation. Now, of course, every year they don't take it, or every year that the market does better than the 4% withdrawal rate, that amount is going to grow in that bucket, and that is the goal. And as that amount grows, that allows them to even take additional distributions from the variable income bucket. Also, everyone needs to have just liquid money that it's just sitting there in the bank to deal with emergencies. And we put another $100,000 in more of a growth portfolio. In other words, take a little bit more risk, because the idea is to grow this perhaps for inheritances, or perhaps for grandchildren. We have a much longer time horizon. Again, this is just a conceptual example for you to consider. And we put the last $30,000 in the money to heirs, and sometimes that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. Maybe we need to talk about insurance. Maybe we need to talk about long-term care. Maybe we need to talk about other aspects that are necessary to make the estate plan work and to create a great plan for the heirs. So it's not just for mom and dad, but also for any children or charities that are important to them. Now, we've spent a lot of time in this workshop talking about money and Social Security, so you may find it interesting that, I'm going to begin to wind up this workshop by talking about, it's not just about the money, is it? That it's very important that we all have a true purpose for money, something that animates or motivates us, or the reason behind we're working and trying to be good stewards of our money. You may recall Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the the this diagram shows his hierarchy of needs, and puts it under the backdrop of our finances. And as we are able to get more and more control of our finances and get greater confidence over them, it allows us to move up this hierarchy and hopefully move up from um, the basic ideas of safety to a form of self actualization where we're actually using our money to live out our true purpose for money and to live out our ideals for ourselves, for our families, and for our charities that are important and that we believe in. So in summary, there's some simple rules that can create peace of mind when it comes to income strategy. You need to investigate your Social Security timing options. I would use buckets to help determine your income overage or shortfall. And if there's a shortfall, determine how much of that income shortfall you would like to have guaranteed, and pay attention to inflation and plan your other asset buckets accordingly. So the next step, if you've found this interesting, if it's piqued your interest, if you have any additional questions you'd like to discuss, I'm offering the ability to get a Social Security claiming report, income adjusted for inflation report, and asset balances report. I can do those for you. If you're interested, please be sure to contact me by emailing me at dan at Betzel Wealth Advisors. My first name, Dan, Dan, at Betzel, B as in boy, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, Z as in zebra, E as in Edward, L as in llama, wealth, WEALTH, advisors, ADVISORS.com. I'll get back to you. You can also go to my website. You can also call me, whatever's easiest for you. So I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen to this. What I hope has been a very practical and useful examination of Social Security, and has given you some ideas of questions you can follow up on. And remember, this is just an overview and a conceptual discussion of Social Security. You got to make sure that whatever decision you make for yourself and your family is the decision that's best for you. Thank you so much, and I'm going to be producing some additional videos, so please be looking for those. Thanks again, and all the best to you and your family.